Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're tackling a childhood behavior that is so common and honestly so widely misunderstood, avoiding the school bathroom. We usually just brush this off as a quirky little phase, right? But as you'll see, this everyday behavior actually carries some genuinely surprising physical and psychological weight.
So, picture this for a second. Have you ever noticed that familiar, almost frantic post-school sprint? You know, the moment the front door opens, the backpack hits the floor, shoes go absolutely flying, and they are making a beeline straight for the restroom. We tend to chuckle at it, but what if I told you this isn't just poor time management on their part? This rush is actually the grand finale of an active, day-long strategy of avoidance.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're dealing with here. This quote comes directly from a landmark 2003 study by Vernon and colleagues. Look at the language they're using. They aren't talking about a mild inconvenience. They explicitly state that a child's experience with school toilets presents a distinct risk to both their physical and psychological health. This immediately takes what we're talking about today from a simple behavioral quirk straight to a legitimate clinical concern.
Okay, let's dive into this. The school bathroom secret, more than just shyness.
Section 2. The cost of holding it. The domino effect of waiting.
So in the medical world, habitually holding in urine and stool isn't just called waiting until you get home. It actually has a clinical name: avoiding postponement. When a child constantly overrides their body's natural signals to go, they are essentially training their body incorrectly. The muscles and nerves get mixed signals. It's like crossed wires. They're learning to retain rather than release. And that incorrect training is exactly what sets the stage for a whole host of problems down the line. Which brings us to the physical fallout. When voiding postponement becomes a daily habit, it triggers a severe domino effect. It usually starts with functional constipation, meaning the stool backs up because it's being held in. And that directly leads to the second point, ongoing tummy pain. But it totally affects the bladder too. Because the bowel and bladder share space, that constipation can literally press on the bladder, leading to urinary retention. And ironically, holding it in too much eventually leads to daytime wet accidents, simply because the bladder gets overwhelmed or irritated. Finally, retaining all that urine creates the perfect environment for bacteria, leading to recurrent urinary tract infections. This whole list proves that holding it is a real health hazard, causing actual physical distress.
Next up, why bathrooms spark fear: a hostile sensory environment.
To really understand this, we have to look at the stark contrast in a child's environment. At home, the bathroom is quiet, it's private, it's safe, and the routine is totally familiar. But at school, it's often the exact opposite. It's this chaotic, unpredictable space filled with loud auto flushes, roaring hand dryers, stalls with broken locks, and a super high potential for social anxiety. When you put them side by side, it is entirely understandable why a child's nervous system would reject the school bathroom as an unsafe place to be vulnerable.
Let's break down those specific hidden triggers that the research actually pinpointed. It starts before they even leave the classroom. Honestly, the anxiety of having to ask permission aloud in front of 20 other peers is a massive hurdle. Then, once they get in there, they might face dirty stalls or the vulnerability of absent or broken locks. Then there's the sensory assault. For a lot of kids, the sudden, startling noise of an auto flush sensor or the deafening roar of a commercial hand dryer is just incredibly overwhelming. Add in the social element, fear of other kids listening or bullying concerns around the toilets, and you have a perfect recipe for total avoidance.
Moving to Section 4, how to fix the cycle: empowering home and school interventions.
The good news is, because we understand exactly what the triggers are, we can implement highly effective, empathetic solutions. We don't have to just accept the post-school sprint. Here are 4 actionable steps. Step 1. Establish a discreet hand signal with the teacher. This is a game changer because it completely bypasses that first major trigger of asking aloud. It gives the child immediate private control. Step 2. Open a dialogue with the school. Advocate for basic privacy, cleanliness, and working locks on those doors. Step 3 happens at home. Keep all toileting routines calm and pressure-free, and definitely make sure you are actively treating any constipation that's already developed. And finally, Step 4, validate their fear. Acknowledge that the hand dryers are loud and the locks are frustrating rather than just telling them they're being silly. Validation builds the trust you need to actually change the behavior.
Let's look at the one thing to never do: breaking the hold it cycle. So the crucial point is this: pressuring, rushing, or shaming a child for holding it or having an accident is incredibly counterproductive. It's well documented that doing so only tightens the hold it cycle. When a child feels shame or pressure, their anxiety spikes. And what happens? That makes them hold it even tighter, further entrenching the constipation and retention.
Calmness and practical accommodations are literally the only ways to actually break the cycle. Just never punish the behavior.
And of course, there is a distinct line where at-home management needs to shift to professional medical care. You should absolutely call a pediatrician if you observe persistent withholding that just isn't improving, if the child complains of ongoing tummy pain, or if they're experiencing daytime wetting or soiling accidents. We never want to try and diagnose this ourselves, right? A doctor is needed to properly rule out or treat serious constipation and urinary retention.
I want to leave you with this question to think about today. How can we, as a community of parents, educators, and advocates, transform our school bathrooms from places of fear into places of true health and safety? Because as we've explored, ensuring a child feels safe enough to use the restroom isn't just about their comfort, it is a fundamental requirement for their physical and psychological well-being. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions, keep advocating, and I'll see you next time.